The Generation Cowboys and Sports Talk. My dad, my partner, my co-host, Cowboy Joe 64.
I am your father.
Just to get the Cowboys 2 good games to hopefully understand that they need to go receiver and go high with this next pick.
Yeah, that's really what this is going to be about. All right, welcome everybody. You're looking live at another episode of Generation Cowboys and Sports Talks, and I'm the host. I have with my dad, Cowboy Joe 64, and we are live. So make sure you all like, comment, and subscribe, and make sure you all comment on anything if you want to say anything, and we'll make sure that we reply to it. So this episode, we're gonna kind of do a little different than what we traditionally do. I think it should be a fun episode. We're gonna look at and review and react to Michael Irvin, some comments that he's made about the Cowboys and their coaching search and things. And then we're going to also take a look at a couple of clips from the press conference earlier today with Jerry and Steven introducing Schotty as the new head coach. And so I thought that was pretty interesting. There's a couple tidbits out of that video that I want to get the fans' reactions about and get my dad's reaction about it too. And so without further ado, let's hear from the playmaker himself, and let's just kind of give him the
floor.
Yeah, give him the floor. See what he talking about, because boy, I'm telling you, he really had me going the other day with his with what he was saying. I mean, he really feels just like all of the Cowboy Nation, how we all feel. I mean, it's like, he really just speaking through us. That's how I be feeling to me. So let's start off with this.
Story of a championship story. Don't even know about it. How the hell can they pass something on down or pass it down when they don't even know about it? In 10 years, that would have been a generation that knows nothing about a championship from the so-called America's team. And worse yet, that generation has seen total domination from a team.
Using the right weight meters.
So I'm gonna have to.
The body pod lets you easily understand what is the fastest way to reach your health and fitness goal.
Name the Kansas Chiefs, who in that span is running up on winning 3 in a row. 3 in a row. So not only are you losing football games over here and opportunities over here, even divisions over here, you're about to get our moniker snatched off our backs. Give me that. Because Kansas City over here with Miss All-America Taylor Swift, I'm a fan. Don't come at me about that. And Miss All-American Caitlin Clark, and I'm certainly a fan of her, so don't come after me about that. All that All-American in winning. This is what this generation knows. You understand, man? Do you understand what we did? You go and hire Brian Schottenheimer. I know he's been in the league for forever. But I also know he's been playing basketball in the NFL. He's been NBA in the NFL. I call it bouncing his ass around to about 15 other teams. I ain't saying he ain't a good coach in this position. I don't know. I'm going to give him an opportunity because I have to. Because I'm certainly not snatching the star off my heart. I can't do that. There ain't nothing personal against him. It's what we needed. It's what we needed. I know what we needed. Brian Schottenheimer, I don't know the man, but I do know man. And I know man. I know when you are within an organization and you get promoted within that organization. And I know that the Dallas Cowboys right now, they don't have curfew. So let me give you that. They don't have curfew. They don't have discipline. We were fourth in penalties this year. So how do you fix that? You go and be more disciplined? Or be more of a disciplinarian? How do you do that when you're coming from inside? Because when you start saying, hey, You jump off sides now, we're gonna fine you. You jump off sides, we're gonna penalize you. Jump off sides, you're going to have to go do some running. And everybody gonna say, "Oh man, you gonna start acting like an asshole after we got you the job?" That's what you're gonna do. If you say, "Okay, we haven't been meeting at night. We leave Saturday afternoon at 1:30, people, for a 3 p.m. Sunday game. I'll see you at the game on 3 p.m. Sunday." Do y'all understand? Everybody else, they show up at a hotel Saturday night at 6 p.m. That's what we did. We have dinner till about 7:30. Then we're gonna go have meetings and watch film till about 9. We'll get us a snack. About 9:30, we're gonna go in the room, play cards, hang out for a minute. The whole damn while we're talking game plan and what we must do. It's a promise made, one man to another. I will get my damn job done today. That's how you win championships. And you make the promise over and over to each other. You make it.
Okay, so I'm gonna stop it right there because I wanted to say something. So now I want to know what you think about this. I had no idea that they didn't have a curfew, and I just felt like, I'm a huge Michael Jordan fan. Okay, I love Michael Jordan. I feel like it's just those athletes like that I just I love Michael Jordan. I love Floyd Mayweather. I like those kind of athletes. I love Muhammad Ali. Those kind of athletes that are just great, one in a lifetime chance. Like everything they do, it's just crazy to me. So like LeBron, Kobe, so when I watch The Last Dance, I watch it. I watch it all the time. Watch it over and over again. And it's just certain things like, when Michael Irving was talking about the room and how they go to games and how they meet at the hotel and how they be at the hotel and they talking about game plan and all of that. And when I watched the Last Dance, I just assumed that was universal within sports. I thought that all sports teams did that. I thought that that was every NBA team. That was every NFL team. Like when you gotta be at a game on Sunday, then you meet at the hotel the night before, probably Friday, Saturday, Sunday. I would assume it's off. But see, then listen. Also, I noticed a couple more things. When you live in the Dallas Metroplex, a lot of the football players, they are like sociable people. So like I noticed it a few times when Dez, Dez, I met Dez like so many times. We have like a couple mutual friends, and so I would be at certain places and Dez would be there. We would be at the house and Dez would be chilling. And sometimes we would go out with Dez, like to the club. We'll go to the club and we'll meet Dez there. Sometimes we'll run into Dez at the mall, and sometimes I'll see Dez and he'll see me and he'll recognize me. I'll recognize him. He would shake our hand, do all that kind of stuff. But it was times where I would realize like, yo, they have a game tomorrow and Dez is in the club tonight. They got to play tomorrow and he in the club tonight. We're here tonight. And the same thing with like CD Lamb and Trayvon. It's like Zeke too. A couple times we'll be Zeke. We'll see Zeke out at the club and we know that they got a game tomorrow at 3:15 and he's out at the club and it's like 3 a.m. So we just knew Zeke was a wild one. And CD and Trayvon too. We will be out somewhere and CD Lamb and Trayvon Diggs will pull up together back to back in Lambos. They got a game tomorrow. And then when they get to the game tomorrow, they'll be like slouchy and it'll be like, you'll be like, now CD gonna be CD. He gonna always be good. But it be games where you be like, Trayvon looked like he tired and we know he was in the club last night. We seen it. So it's just like, I don't understand how they don't have curfew. I don't understand who idea that was. And to me, it's just like, if you want to be a championship team, you have to do championship things, but it has to come from the top down. It's just like, whose bright idea was it that these guys from the Dallas Cowboys, these multi-millionaires, should not have a curfew? How is that allowable?
So I cannot imagine that was happening with Garrett. I mean, that kind of sounds like a Wade thing. I don't know, Garrett, I don't know if he would have been okay with that. I can't imagine that. I mean, McCarthy. So I don't know, but
I mean, pause. We didn't hear stories about how Dez almost missed the plane, right?
Yeah, we heard that about somebody. We heard that about Mike too. So, well, Mike actually missed the plane. So yeah, I think you know, probably what's going to happen is, and then that's a good thing about Shotty. You know, his dad was an old school coach. He had a old school, coaching style. So some of those things he'll probably come in and change. So I'm really just listening to him today. I'm kind of just hopeful about him, his coaching style. It kind of goes back to what you've been saying that the head coach, we just got to have a lot of good things around him. So I think that part right there, he's a real detailed guy. He's real organized. Everybody talks about that.
When
So
you're with each other.
I ain't really concerned about that type of thing being changed. So I think we're gonna be good on that.
Yeah, and we're gonna get to Shotty in just a second, and we can talk about that. And I gotta go get my charger from my laptop, but I'm gonna get back to this.
About money. You don't talk about winning.
I'm gonna get back to this real quick.
Okay.
And then when it's time to be talking football, you got everybody home, sitting at home. Now Brian's going to come in. What is he going to say? We're going to start showing up at the hotel. We're going to have curfew. They're going to say it again. Oh, man, what you doing, dog? Oh, okay, nigga, you going to change like this on us? This how you going to change? Oh, we got you the job. That's what they're going to say. And now you're risking losing the whole locker room. I hope I'm wrong. But I'm telling you, I know man. And I do know this. I know how to win championships. I got hardware everywhere. All my shit ain't fake. People put whatever they put back there, that's all real hardware. Ain't a piece back there fake. And it comes from everywhere, on all levels. Don't tell me I don't know how to get it. And I'm telling you, that ain't how to get it. It takes focus, man. It takes this dedication. And it has to come from the top. Now, how do we do that? How do we do that? How do you do the same damn thing and get something different?
Michael?
Okay. So, what do you think about what he was just saying?
So I think he's just like a lot of Cowboy fans. He really wanted to do a sea change and just really come in and just turn it over, just really shake things up. Obviously, he's talking about Dion, but I think he would have been fine also with Aaron Glenn, somebody like Ben Johnson, somebody like Joe Brady. So I think just the overall disappointment is that he just feels like they did the safe thing, what they feel comfortable with, and everybody knows, including him. You win championships, you grow by being uncomfortable. So his overall thing is he just feels like they did something that's comfortable, and so it's just gonna put the players in that comfortability mindset, and that's one of the concerns I have about Eberflus, which we'll talk about later. It's just a very comfortable hire. I don't think they needed that. They needed, Dan Quinn when he came in after Marinelli. He didn't make them comfortable. He made them do things that they were not comfortable with. Everybody, when Zim came in, you don't get the charger.
Yeah,
Okay,
keep talking.
no problem. So when Zim came in, Zim he did something else again that just made them uncomfortable. He made some changes. Now Zim said he was disappointed in himself that he didn't make all of the changes up front, but what was important to Zim was just again just making the players do something uncomfortable. And I think the sense of urgency that Zim had, Dan Quinn had that same thing. So that's what Mike is talking about, and he's just disappointed that they didn't change the process. What they did with the hiring process, talked about it on our shows before. It's just a certain science to hiring. They didn't use the science again. This time I will give them uh, a little credit. They did, interview a few more people, but this process, with them being the franchise that they are, they should have interviewed everybody, and they should have started it the day after they interviewed McCarthy. So They should have talked to McCarthy. The season ended on a Sunday. They should have brought McCarthy in on Monday. Whatever conversation they was gonna have with him, have it that Monday. On Tuesday, they should have been setting up interviews with Joe Brady, Aaron Glenn, Ben Johnson, Vrabel. They should have got word out to everybody. Kubiak, and Kellen and Schottys. And I believe, and probably Michael believes too, if they had interviewed 10 coaches, it's a possibility that Schottenheimer would have been number 9 and Kellen would have been 10 in terms of how they ranked. Man, and we don't know. It could have been that Schottenheimer was number 1, Kellen was number 1. You really don't know. The bottom line is they didn't use that process. So when you don't use a good hiring process, that's kind of what you end up with. And if they had just done that, Mike will probably still not be happy with the selection, but at least he's gonna know that they did their due diligence, and that's what good franchises, they just use good practices, and once again, they didn't do that. They just did what they felt comfortable with, and that's what most people are upset about. And we hope that sometimes you can get lucky and you just hire the right coach. That's what sometimes happens. We keep saying it. The broken clock is right twice a day. So Jerry is due for some better luck on these things. He might just luck up and just have a good coach, but how he got there, that's what everybody's talking about, and including the playmaker. And he really wanted them, and I forgot about Dion. He should have talked to Dion as well. Dion should have came in and did an actual interview, and then you just take it from there.
Yeah, and see, another thing that a lot of people are not talking about is, see, people are talking about it, but it's a hard thing, trying to get a championship and build a team. So my thing is this: you can have the right coach, but if you bring Dion in here, or if you bring Mike Vrabel in here, or if you bring Aaron Glenn or Ben Johnson in here, or if you bring Belichick in here, and then when you bring them in here, you draft Mozzie, and you draft Taco, and you draft Tristan Hill, and you draft Kelvin Joseph, and then you pass on Derrick Henry, and you pass on Saquon when you desperately need a running back, and you pass on all the receivers, and you trade a 4th-round pick for Mingo, and you trade a 4th-round pick for Trey Lance, and you never play him. If you do all of those things, irregardless of who the coach is, you're not going to be a winning franchise. So it's things outside of the coaching process and the coaching search that helps a team. It's just like when look at the Kansas City Chiefs. Spagnuolo, a lot of people like to talk about Kansas City last night, and a lot of people like to talk about Patrick Mahomes. He won against Josh Allen last night, and that's fine. But the bottom line is, when the game came down to it, their offense could not get past the Kansas City defense. Spagnuolo called up some blitzes that Josh Allen hadn't seen before, caused him to panic and throw the ball up and end the game. They kept running the same play over and over again, and they kept getting crushed online. But those are the Hunt organization, Hunt family, they're a winning organization. They're a winning team. They're a winning franchise because they build their teams the right way. They do everything. They utilize free agency. They utilize the draft well. You know what I mean? People look at them like they was crazy when they traded for Tyreek, when they traded Tyreek Hill. But if you're a winning organization and you do stuff like that, you're obviously doing it for a reason. We can't do stuff like that because we don't follow up. They did Tyreek Hill, and they followed up with Scott Moore. They followed up with I think it's Worthy.
Yeah.
But
and they got Worthy because of Buffalo, actually.
Exactly. So I mean, they do all of those things in conjunction to put themselves back at the top. Jalen Hurts is not better than Dak. He not. But Kellen Moore is not a better coach. Kellen Moore and that other guy, their head coach, they're not a better coach than Mike McCarthy. They're not. But when you got Howie Roseman, he is a better GM than Steven. And when you got him doing these contracts right, and when you got him saying, you know what, we need a running back to take us over the top, let's go get this running back to take us over the top. They had less cap space than we did, or close to it, and they went and did it. So it don't matter if, to me, I think Schottenheimer is going to do great. I think Schottenheimer is going to do good. But what are they going to give Schottenheimer to work with? That's my burning desired question. Are they gonna do free agency? Are they gonna do are they gonna draft right? Because if they don't, we're just wasting our time talking about Schottenheimer and Kellen Moore and all these other pieces. They're not gonna shot no matter who the coach was on this team last year, the way that they handled the offseason and the injuries that we had, we wasn't gonna be. They didn't put us in a position to be successful, and they keep doing that over and over again. So let's get to some of these questions that they was asking at this press conference. That, you know, surprisingly to me, they asked some questions that we would have asked, and we seen Stephen Jones do what he normally does, which is just totally no responsibility, avoiding the real question. I mean, avoiding the real answers. It's just like he did this thing in the press conference everybody's talking about. He put the word drought, 29-year-old drought, in air quotes, as if
Yeah.
like that's a air quote. That's not an air quote situation. There is no drought. There is a drought. There we have not won in 30 years. There is no. It's just kind of like he equals. It's like he doesn't understand that they have not been successful. This, like he said, the so-called drought. Well, what do you? If it's not a drought, what is it? I mean, you know. So let's take a look at what he was at some of these questions, you know, because that was just mind-boggling to me. I don't understand.
View on what I want.
And then for Stephen and Jerry, what do you guys need to do differently to support Brian and to end the 29-year drought that you guys have between going to a Super Bowl?
Well, I think we, you always have to evaluate, where it didn't go right last year. And obviously we're also evaluating where it didn't go right, in terms of, this drought that people say we're in terms of a championship game or a Super Bowl. And, we just have to continue to make this roster better. Where it didn't
Yeah,
go
you can
right.
go ahead and pause it. So I think, yeah, it's so what people got to understand too is it's pretty predictable what you're going to hear from them when they do these press conferences. It's almost like if you're a fan, you're not even really sure you want to listen to, what they're saying. I think for me, I was more or less interested in what Shotty was saying and what he was talking about. I thought he was really, really impressive, based on what I saw. Now him with the air quote thing, it's like, what do you expect him to say? What do you expect to have coming from him? But I think what the important thing is going to be, see, we're going to have like some benchmarks that are going to come down pretty quick. Okay, so the first thing you're going to see is you're going to see the start of free agency, and you're going to know pretty quick what's happening here. You're going to be able to just track them. Where are they when free agency starts? Are they at the start, or are they on vacation? So you're going to have some benchmarks to just see exactly what they're doing. And then you're going to be looking also at Jordan Lewis. You're going to be looking at Rico. I don't think Odigizua is coming back either way. So, one of the things he said today in the press conference, they both said, is that they're going to look at how they're managing the cap. I think they need to bring somebody in from the outside. Adam Pacifica, he's the cap guy that was the former restaurant manager. So I'm thinking that it might just be a fall guy in this situation. Somebody has to go. So probably what you're gonna hear is that he's been reassigned or whatever the case may be. But those are the kind of things you're looking for. It's almost one of those things you can't really listen to what they say. You got to look at what they do. So all of the stuff that he said today, you just got to look at it, what they're going to be doing in the next few weeks. It's going to all come down pretty quick. We're going to know really quick how serious they are about this cap. They have to change whoever's doing the cap, Steven, Adam Pacifica, whoever it is. It has to be crystal clear to them what they're doing is not working. And I really think the press kind of, gave them a pass on some of the questions they didn't really follow up to some of the stuff that they said. So, but yeah, the drought thing, that should have been a follow up from somebody there. So, you know.
Yeah, I mean, it should have been, the drought thing, but that's the whole thing, it's just like you want to ask these questions and you want to hear what they have to say, but really, it's really not about hearing what they have to say. It's just about making them aware that these things are going on in their face. Like, we just want you to know that we understand that this is what the narrative is. We don't really care what you have to say about it because there's only one thing that you can do to fix it. And that's the opposite of what you've been doing. And that's going to be the same with every question that they ask when it comes to the drought. So it's just like, you just have to look in the mirror and notice, that's what one of the guys said. He was just like, when you look in the mirror, you understand. It's just like, yeah, we need you all to, Stephen, he just, it's a war of words.
What was that moment like when it was Jerry
I'm trying to find the spot where Schottys talks about how he's going to do, what he's going to do different with the offense. And I like that.
I'd like to go back with one thing, Nick,
let me see if I can find it.
As well.
Iron sharpens iron.
Okay, so here it is.
The X's and O's will come. Before I respond to that, I'd like to go back with one thing, Nick, I'm not doing this by myself. I've got the incredible support of Jerry, Stephen, the
you can hear that,
family.
Right?
Yeah.
The young men that are sitting behind you, we're doing this together. So my message to the Cowboys fans and community is we're going to do this together. And we're going to build this thing the right way. We're going to get the culture right. The X's and O's will come. That doesn't matter. But the support and the work ethic of these guys that sit behind me, incredibly humbling that they know what it takes to win too. So it's not just me. It'll be me and the staff. Your second question, I apologize, was?
You've worked with Dak for the last 3 years. What do you feel like you can get out of him? What do you feel like he can get out of you as well?
Iron sharpens iron, and Dak and I have an incredible relationship, just like I have an incredible relationship with all these guys. Dak and I know how to push each other's buttons. We know how to have hard conversations. I laugh because I think about in training camp last year, a ball got intercepted, and we kind of had a thing in place where it was like, if you throw an interception, you come out. And so I took Dak out, and he's like, what? Like, he pushed back. He's like, ah. And the competitor in him is special. And so I think he and I working together, along with the rest of the guys, putting together the system. There'll be tweaks. There's going to be changes. But he's the type of worker that changes an entire organization. And I think he and I see the game of football offensively very, very similar. And we'll have tons of communication moving forward on some of the thoughts of things we want to do, whether it's tempo or, some of the different things we're trying to do with our play action passing game, the run game, things like that. But he's easy to talk to, and I love and respect him along with all those guys.
Hey guys, Patrick Walker, DallasCowboys.com. 2 questions. The first I'll lead to Schottys, kind of circling back to what Jerry and Stephen both said as far as freshening things up, looking for a change. From a head coach perspective, that's going to key in on the offense. Generally speaking, how do you look to move forward as far as modernizing the offense? You talk about solving for the quarterback. What does that look like under a Schottenheimer era?
Yeah, again, I go back to my days with Pete. I think if you go back and you look at some of the things we did in Seattle, obviously the starting point for me would be things that our players do well. You're always going to start with that. If your system's not flexible enough to do what your players do well, then you're probably in the wrong business. But I'm a big believer in cut splits. I'm a big believer in shifts and motions to distort things. We're going to do a great job of marrying our runs and our passes and make those look the same. I'm proud to say that 2 different times in my career as a coordinator, we led the league in rushing. And they go hand in hand. the running game and the action passing game go hand in hand. But I would say there's a tempo element that we're excited to mix in. That.
So one thing I want to say, I think we can talk about is just think about this. So when LaFleur, Shanahan, and it was another coach, they were all on Washington staff at the same time. So it was LaFleur, Shanahan, it was one other guy. It was McVay.
Yeah, and it was more than that. It was LaFleur, Shanahan, McVay, Slowick, Mike McDonald.
Yeah. Now, if
Even
you were,
the top, I think it's another guy we missing. He's a linebacker coach.
So if you remember, those teams, they were not very good. Those Washington teams, they didn't really beat us. I don't remember them being that great offensively. And so each one of those guys, when they got their own job, it was the first time they called plays. So McVay, LaFleur, Shanahan, when they started coaching, it was their first time calling plays. They were not the play caller at Washington. It was John Gruden's brother was the head coach, and he called plays. So where I'm going with that is, a lot of people are criticizing Schotty because he, hasn't had a head coaching job and called plays before. That's kind of how it happens sometimes. So the question is going to be, once he starts, being a head coach and calling his own plays, he can actually do the same things that LaFleur did, that we saw the success this year the coach for the Vikings had. It was his first time calling plays. So sometimes you can just get lucky and get the right guy. And that could easily been Kellen, obviously, but and Kellen has called plays. So
it was Shanahan's system that they adopted, and I think the daddy Shanahan was the coach too. I don't know, he was the coach because I think Kyle Shanahan was calling plays, right? He was the offensive coordinator, or was he the quarterback?
He may have been, and I thought they were on Gruden's staff too, but I think you were right. It was the dad Shanahan, but still, a lot of those guys, they first time calling plays was when they became head coaches. So I said all that to say this: sometimes you can just get lucky, and you can just hire the right guy despite all of the stuff around you being in chaos. Jerry has not been able to do that. Wade Phillips, Shan Gailey, Jason Garrett, they were not the right guy. I will say this: if you took me back 5-10 years ago, and you said, would you hire Brian Schottenheimer or Jason Garrett as your head coach? I would have hired Brian Schottenheimer every day and twice on Sunday. He's just a different kind of guy. He's got the pedigree. His father was one of the legendary coaches. Jason Garrett didn't have none of that. Jason Garrett was on our team in the 90s. He was just a guy on the team. He was a third string quarterback. He didn't even fit in with the team. He wasn't one of the guys. Jason Garrett went to different organizations. I just never felt the whole time that he was here. You couldn't tell me that he had been in the league before. You couldn't tell me that he played for Jimmy. You couldn't tell me that he coached with Nick Saban. So I believe, Schotty you're gonna be able to see those things. So that's the kind of hopeful part. And like I said, you said it. I'm gonna say it again. You said sometimes it's not the head coach, it's the people that are around him. So that's where Steven and Jerry come in. They got to change what they're doing. So with him, and a lot of people are saying this too, they don't really have a problem with him. They got a problem with the process.
Yeah, like I said, I don't have a problem with him. I got a problem with the way that the organization is ran. I got a problem with them with the way that they draft and the way that they go about ignoring free agency. See, Schotty is going to cater to modern offense. He's going to do exactly what he said. He's going to run the ball a lot. The difference is going to be who is he running the ball with? Who is he running the ball with? Is he running the ball with Rico and Deuce Vaughn, or is he running
Genty?
Or Genty and Rico?
Well, they actually need two backs. They need Genty, another back, and Rico. So yeah, they're gonna need to get a back in the draft. They could double dip at running back. It's gonna be some good backs in the 5th round. So yeah, I think with Genty, what we proved the other night with our analytics that we showed with the stats, if they draft Genty, you're not going to be able to give him the ball 20, 25 times a game. You're not going to be able to do that. So yeah, they're going to have, and the way he runs the ball, he's going to need 2 or 3 backs. So that's going to be critical. And if they don't take a back in the first round, they can get one in the second round. So that's going to be critical. But the free agency part, they need to sign a free agent running back. They're going to have to sign a free agent. I don't believe we have our second and third receiver on the team. So going back to this salary cap thing, they got to go sign a veteran receiver. I was telling your uncle Eric about Juju Smith-Schuster, and he had kind of forgot that Juju was on Kansas City. Juju, the both Super Bowls they won, he didn't have a lot of catches, but he made key catches. He made some last night. That's the kind of veteran receiver that we need. It could be Stephon Diggs. So that free agency is going to be critical because in years past, we wouldn't even look at Stephon Diggs or Henry or Juju. It's just like, oh, we're not doing that. So again, we're going to have to look at what he's actually going to do. And we're going to know pretty quick because some of these players out there, they're not going to be expensive. And is he going to make a move, just simple moves to go get them? That's going to be the key. And we're going to know pretty quick.
Because I guarantee you right now, we're talking about these coaches and who's the guy and who's not. I guarantee you, if we would have had the kind of off season that the Eagles had, we would have went to the playoffs this year and the year before that.
One thing I agree, let me cut you out. One thing I agree with, it's not going to take a lot for us to get right back where we need to be. You can do this in one off season, but when I say he, it's not Jerry, it's Steven. It's Steven. Now, what Jerry may need to do at this point, people were saying that this is Jerry's last hire. He needs to do something big, which he didn't do. But what Jerry can do, he needs to start doing big things around the office. He needs to just go into the office tomorrow and just tell them, you two guys, you're no longer in charge of the cap. We're bringing somebody else to run the cap. He also needs to look at scouting. He needs to look at McClay. He needs to come in and say, we're going to change some things with the way we're doing our drafts. We're going to bring somebody else to look at what we're doing draft-wise because what they're doing is not working.
I would be saying that
I want you to pull up at some point. You might not be able to do it tonight. I want you to put the Eagles draft and our draft side by side the last 2 years. It's like it's embarrassing.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, it's embarrassing. And I would tell them, we picked 12. And we picked 12, and you got about 2 or 3 quarterbacks that's going to be selected. 2 off top. No way in the world that we pick in the second draft. I mean, in the first round at the 12th spot, I'm coming out of the first round with one of these players. I'm coming off with, and I can name 9 or 10. So I'm coming off with Genty, Ted, Luther, Egbuka, both of the tackles from Michigan, one of the tackles from Michigan, which is 2 of them, the tight end from Penn State, or I don't want to do the Texas tackle, but I will. The Texas tackle, if nobody else is there. I mean, that's 8 right there. All of those players right there make your team, they hit the switch on your team off top.
Now, what we're going to do, we're gonna do some mock drafts and look at Tankathon. What we're gonna do before the draft, we're gonna come up with 2 players that absolutely should not be taken at 12. We can do 3 players, and what we're gonna look at, if they do what they normally do, they're not gonna take the 8 guys or 10 guys that you mentioned. They're gonna take one of these 3 players that we say just shouldn't even be there, and that's what they've done the last couple of years. Mozzie should not have been taken where he was taken. Schoon should not have been taken where he was taken. Where was Nolan Smith was drafted in the second round or the first round? Because we passed on Nolan Smith to take either Mozzie or Schoon.
He was taken in the second round.
And everybody was talking about Nolan Smith. Nobody was talking about Schoonmaker. And we drafted Schoonmaker. So that's what we can't do. We need to stop doing, I'm calling it goofy things. They have done a lot of goofy things with their drafts. And Jeff Cavanaugh has talked about this, so shout out to Jeff.
Well,
And
we can look at
these
we can
last
look
two
at
drafts have really put us behind the 8 ball.
so look at 23. So if you look at 23, okay, so this is 23. Are you seeing this?
I can't see it.
Let's look at this. This is 23. All right, so 23, you have Cowboys took Mozzie in the first round, Luke Schoonmaker in the second round, Brandon Aubrey in the third round. No, these were not. Well, I guess this
Brandon
is not.
Aubrey is a free agent, yeah.
Yeah, this says undrafted free agent right there. But anyways, first round. Well, they had 2 first round picks that year. They got Jalen Carter and Nolan Smith. Then they got Sidney Brown in the third round.
Where was Nolan Smith taken?
It says it's first round. I think it was like right at the second round. Let me pull up the Wikipedia. We do better doing it on Wikipedia.
Yeah. But while you're doing that, what's really impacting our team is this has happened with like multiple drafts that Will McClay has been in charge of. He has found players like Bland, some of the players like CD, Micah. I mean, you can't really give them credit for those picks because those are just slam dunks, obvious picks. But when they have to just sit down and just take a good player, what they've done is that they've done goofy things. They take guys that and everybody,
the clock is right twice a day. That's what they do. So for first round, the Eagles got Jalen Carter, and then in the first round we got Mozzie Smith.
Okay, so now who was taken after Mozzie?
Anton. Are you talking about with the Eagles or just in general?
Players that just went after Mozzie in general.
Well, Nolan Smith went right after Mozzie. He went 30th.
Okay, so Nolan Smith should have been the pick. We know that Bergeron should have been the pick. Where was Bergeron taken?
He was taken. Matthew Bergeron was taken in Atlanta in the second.
So Bergeron must have been a player that they wanted instead of Schoon. But be that as it may, Mozzie, if you just look at, and Jeff Kavanaugh talked about this today, he said that when you draft, if you go into a draft thinking about what you need, you're going to screw it up every time. You should never just go into a draft and say, I need this, I need that. And what they did, they went into this draft saying that they needed a defensive tackle. When you do that, you're going to screw your draft up.
You just take the best player available.
And not only do you take the best player, you want to take the player that has jump off the screen talent. You want to take the player that their first or second year in the league, they're going to just jump into your lineup and you're going to see their talent just jump off the screen the same way that Tyler Smith did. Tyler Smith was taken whatever spot he was taken in. You could see his first season that he was a player. You could see it on his highlight film. They didn't do that with Guyton. You know, Guyton wasn't the same type of player. There was nothing in Guyton's highlight reel that said he was a guy that you just got to take right here. So again, they reached and took Guyton when they really didn't need to.
We can look at the 24 draft and we can see who was there instead of Guyton. Because, I mean, it's just ridiculous when you look at it.
And they've done that with their second, third, and fourth round picks. Their second, third, and fourth round picks, they're taking guys that there are better players just being left on the board. And so what they have to do, and hopefully what Schotty will be able to do, especially, and what I was going to tell you earlier is that with their situation, with the coaches, with a lot of the things happening with the franchise, they probably feel like they don't have much room for error. So they're probably going to come in with a sense of urgency with these picks. So I can just see them looking at this draft and just saying they got to take some surefire players with this upcoming draft.
Yeah, and I think hopefully they do the same in free agency. You know, that's where you do needs at. I mean, you don't do best player available in free agency, but what you do in free agency is you get your need if you can before the draft. That's why in best player available scenario should always be a viable option because you should be able to get your needs off top from
Yeah.
free agency with your cap space. I mean, that's what you should do. I mean, and then so with Tyler Guyton got picked 29th, and I'm just looking at all of these now. No one knew no one knew that Lad McConkey was gonna be who he is, besides the Chargers, I guess. But Keon Coleman, Xavier Legette, Ricky Pearsall, Nate Wiggins, all of these guys would have been better picks than Tyler Guyton. If Ricky Pearsall was on our team, he would be 1B. Xavier Legette would be 1B. Keon Coleman would be 1B. Lad McConkey would be 1B to CD. You know, you come down here to Tavondre Sweat, he would have been a better pick on our team. Cooper DeJean would have been a better pick. McKinstry probably would have been a better pick.
So now you getting into the second round.
Yeah, all these guys were in the second round, and they would have been picked.
Yeah,
they would have been better picks than our first round pick.
And one thing we need to point out, a lot of scouts, people that cover the draft, they would do a draft even though it's 32 picks in the first round. They'll only have like 15 first round picks in the draft. So everybody after 15, they're really considered second round. So the people that were analyzing the draft, they didn't have a first round grade on Tyler Guyton. And you can tell. The same thing. I don't think they had a first round grade on Mozzie. They didn't have a second round grade on Schoon.
They didn't even have those picks on them. They didn't have a first round pick on Mozzie. They had a second round grade on Mozzie. You can see it on their thing. They had a second round grade on Mozzie, and they had a fourth round grade on Schoon.
So the bottom line on the draft, folks, the Cowboys, what they're doing some goofy things with their board. So the Eagles, the 49ers, the Ravens, the Chiefs, they're just taking better players. They're taking ballers. They're taking guys that come in and play, that have an impact. Cooper DeJean, the Eagles took him. Cooper DeJean didn't need 2 or 3 years to develop. He hit the field ready to play. That's the other thing that we do. And our scouting department, or their scouting department, Will McClay and the folks at the Star, they've also kind of, brainwashed our fans to think that when we draft a player first, second, third round, they need 3 or 4 years to develop. That's not what you should be doing. The Eagles don't do that. The Eagles don't draft somebody and say, we're going to see what they're going to do in 3 or 4 years. The Chiefs don't either. The Ravens don't. And people that have been here a long time, like myself, OGs like me, Jimmy never did that. Jimmy didn't draft someone and say, we're going to give them 3 years to develop. Even offensive line. Jimmy didn't give Eric Williams 3 or 4 years to develop. Nate Newton tells a story all the time about Eric Williams. I think it was like going into the end of his first year or the beginning of his second year. Jimmy is on tape telling the offensive line coach, this guy right here, he's starting for us, so you figure it out. Talking about Eric Williams.
Leon Lett.
Yeah.
I just want to point out something. They actually we live in a day and age where last year the Cowboys they actually drafted players for the future. They actually did that. They actually drafted players for the future, and they actually went about doing free agency for the future. They did. That's what they did. They
didn't do any free agency
because of the future. That's what they were saying. Remember, like, think about it. They like right now they got $25 million in cap space, and then they have 2 void. Then they have next year they have those 2 void years for Tank, and I think it's Zach Martin that just equal 25 million off top. That's what it equals. So it's just like y'all literally didn't use any free agency and didn't use the cap because y'all had to play 2 players next year, $25 million. That is so crazy that they actually went into
so who's the
$25
million players you're talking about?
So the 25 million, if you look at when at the end of the season last year, I mean at the beginning of the season this year, we had $25 in cap allocation. We had $25 left, $25 million
25 million.
left. Yeah, 25 million left on the cap, and I'm gonna pull it up. So let's see, we had 25 million left on the cap, and let's see. So the two void year. Okay, go ahead.
No, while you're looking at that, so yeah, that's what they got to change, and they got to change it pretty quick. They got to go out. We got a lot of spots that are gonna have to be filled, so they got to get busy signing, free agents and figuring out what they're gonna do with their cap and make some changes there.
Yeah.
So
okay, so
we're talking about this pieces of the pie. Go ahead.
Yeah, pieces of the pie, all that crap. It's just nonsense. So look at this right here. So they had $25 million in cap, right? I mean, in cap space that they didn't use, and they were saying that they can't, that they couldn't afford to pay any players or whatever. Jeffrey Kavanaugh did this. So when you do this right here, you look at, they had 25 million. Now this is next year. This is 2026, right? So look at Zach Martin, and look at Donovan Wilson, look at Brandon Cooks, and let's see, is that well, that's it. So when you look at Donovan Wilson and Zach Martin, and I'm trying to, and Tank should be on here somewhere too. I gotta find Tank.
So what we're looking at here,
you see how he's paying? They're paying $9.4 million to Zach Martin next year, and he's not going to even be on the team. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's him and it's Tank and it's a couple more, and it just equals $25 million. So they obviously did that just because they have to pay them those voided years that they had to push out. So in their mind, they're taking care of those voided years and paying them players like Zach Martin, Donovan Wilson, Tank. They're paying them next year, even though they're not going to be on the team, and they're doing it with the $25 million in cap space that they had that they could have used last year to do whatever with. But they didn't do nothing with it. They just let it sit there so that way when next year starts, they can use that to pay for this, which is like building your team, which is what Cowboy fans are mad at, because they didn't do anything with the $25 million that they had, and instead they just said, forget it, we're not doing anything this year, when they could have done something with that,
taking that money for Derrick Henry, or
they could have did that, but they didn't, because they were talking, they looking at 2026. It's just like all of the rest of the void years that are in 2027. Whoever has look at Zach Martin. They still paying Zach Martin in 2027. They're paying him $4 million.
So where Mike Fisher and Jeff Kavanaugh and then Outlaw Cowboy, the guy that we follow that's terrific on the cap, the Eagles, the Chiefs, what these teams are doing, they're just taking this math. They're just taking this system and they're making it work. They're doing different things with it. The Cowboys haven't figured this out. They're just not good at it. So what Jerry needs to do is just rip the Band-Aid off and just say, we're going to look at this department or this team. It's really two people. Adam Pacifica is one of the guys. Mark Holmes always talks about him. Shout out to Mark Holmes. He was a restaurant manager. That's who's been managing their cap for years. And so he needs to look at what Howie Roseman is doing. Go look at, I don't even know who the Chiefs capologist is, but go out and talk to these teams and just look at how are they doing this.
I want to show everybody this right here. This is the Philadelphia Eagles 2025 cap. Look at what their base salary is for their players. They all are making $1.1 million, 1.1, 1.2, 1.1, 1.2, 1.2, 1.2, 1.1, 1. Are y'all seeing this? Are y'all seeing this? This is how they're doing it. Now, Now, why come the Cowboys can't just look at this and just do this?
Well, they can't do that because they don't know how to do it, number one. And then number two, what you notice on the Eagles, roster and the salary cap is this the other thing that we need to talk about, and I talked about it earlier as a draft. The Eagles, they didn't draft Michael Gallup and then pay him more money than we paid Dez. Okay. The Eagles, they didn't draft Zeke and run him into the ground and give him a big contract. Uh, the Eagles, they haven't drafted the type of players that we have and just giving them huge contracts. The other thing that the Eagles haven't done, they didn't wait until a week before the season started and sign players that they needed to sign like we did with Dak and CD. By us waiting to sign Dak and CD when the season started, that tied up our cap money. So to answer your question, these other teams are not doing that. Micah Parsons, if Michael Parsons was a Eagle or a Chief or a 49er, Michael Parsons would already be signed, and that would free up cap space for them to use in free agency on other players.
Now I want everybody to look at this. Saquon got signed this year. His base salary this year is $1.6 million. Okay. Mm-hmm. His signing bonus was $2.4 million. His guaranteed salary is $11 million. His cap number this year is 7. Now watch this. This is 2025. Let's see how much he's getting paid next year. He's getting paid $1.3 million next year. And his cap number is $9 million next year. And his guaranteed salary is 1.5. By the year 2027, but based on what we just seen, by the year 2027, let's see what they're going to do in 2027. He's not even getting paid anything in 2027.
He may not even be on the team in 2027.
Exactly. And his cap number in 2020, he might not even be on the team in 2027. And his cap number.
What they're going to do is they're going to go get another Saquon.
That's what they're going to do. And look, and then his cap number at that point is $20 million. That's when all of his salary is going to hit their books after they didn't want a championship or two.
Yeah, and then that $27 that you're looking at there, they're going to figure out a way by then to even change that number. So this is what Jeff Kavanaugh and Mike Fisher and Outlaw Cowboy, these other people are talking about. If you go over and look at the Baltimore Ravens, they traded for Roquan Smith for nothing. They gave up peanuts to get him. Okay. We saw what the Chiefs did with DeAndre Hopkins. The Chiefs have made some other transactions, right?
Yeah, we can look at it.
But what's happening is the Cowboys are not doing these things. They're not doing them for two reasons. Number one, they don't know how to do it, and they don't want to do it. So that's part of it.
Mm-hmm. Look, Roquan Smith don't even have a guaranteed salary next year.
Yeah, and so again, there was just no reason for Roquan Smith not to be a Cowboy. Just zero.
All of his money. He got all of his money already in the year 2026. From 2025 and 2026, he got all his money, and he won't even. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
And his cap number.
And the same thing with Amari Cooper. Amari Cooper is probably not owed money by anyone. So if we want to sign Amari Cooper, we can just get him for basically nothing. But again, these are not the kind of things that's going to happen. Now, Amari Cooper, I can tell you right now, if we don't sign Amari Cooper, he's going to end up in Washington. He's going to end up, I don't know if Philly could use him. I don't know if Kansas City could use him. Kansas City could swap out Amari Cooper with Juju.
He got a void year right now, and this year he ain't even getting paid nothing by the Bills.
So again, this is what these teams.
Amari Cooper void 0.
Yeah, that's how you build your team. That's how you navigate free agency.
I think you said it when you said it. People didn't think you were being literal when you said they got him for free. They got him for peanuts.
Yeah,
this proves that.
Go to DeAndre Hopkins. He's not making a lot of money.
Let's see.
But see, what Jerry should be doing, it should be someone at the Star right now going over these type of numbers with Jerry. This is what Jerry should have been looking at for the last 3, 4, 5 years. But they don't do it.
DeAndre Hopkins, he ain't getting paid nothing. He getting paid $1.8 million. Actually, he got paid his signing bonus, which was $600,000. And then his cap number is 1.8.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, like this is maddening.
Go to Green Bay and look at Brandon Jacobs. It's so many players, folks, that we could have just signed for peanuts for little or nothing. If your front office just knows what they're doing, if they're doing the homework, putting the time in, you can easily build your team. That's why I say it won't take a lot for us to rebuild our team in one offseason. It can be done. The question has to be, does the people in your front office want to do this work? And we haven't, our front office people, they haven't done that. They just haven't. They're basically saying, we don't believe in free agency. That's not how you build a team. He's been saying that for years. That's
You
what
mean
he's been
Josh
saying.
Jacobs? Josh Jacobs, you mean?
What
Josh
did he
Jacobs,
make?
right? 1.1.
Yeah.
And his signing bonus was $3 million. You mean to tell me that we couldn't do that? We couldn't sign Josh Jacobs and give him 1.1 and $3 million? How much did they give Zeke?
Well, they're already paying Zeke anyway from the first the contract they signed when he went to Cabo.
Yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. But I mean,
but to
still,
answer your question for all of the fans that are listening, people that do listen to our broadcast and listen to it or listen to it later, there's two reasons why we're not doing any of this. The first one is Stephen Jones and Adam Pacifica, because they're telling Jerry Jones we can't do these things. So Jerry's just kind of following, he's following their lead. So what somebody has to go to them and just say, you got to just change how you're doing business, because you got 29 years of no NFC championship games. It's really just crazy, what they've been doing and not been doing.
Yeah, what they haven't been doing is crazy.
And then you see what we just looked at there, and right behind that, you're drafting Mozzie Smith and Schoon and Nashawn Wright, Kelvin Joseph, Josh Ball. Josh Ball was a 3rd round pick. Matt Walesko. They got a Fihoko. They took Fihoko in what is probably the 23 draft, 22 draft. He was a 4th round pick. He was never active for a game, not one time. So you're doing that, and you're not signing no free agents. That's where you are.
I mean, that's where you are, and I mean, it's like it doesn't. It's like I'm taking a math class right now, and so we take this math class. This is not no crazy equation. This is literally like 1 + 1 = 2. 0 + 0 = 0. That's what this is. It's just like you do these things, and if you do these things, you win. If you don't do these things, you lose. And they have not been doing these things.
And what they're doing, they're putting a whole bunch of pressure on their scouting department to just draft and just hit picks one after another, and they're not doing that.
It's like Stephen made a comment today. He said that this year we didn't do a lot in free agency, and we wanted the guys that we drafted to come in and play immediately. But it's just like Stephen.
And nobody rebutted that. Nobody stopped him to tell him what actually happened.
It's like, Stephen, don't you realize that regardless if those players that you drafted would have played anyway, that would not have mattered. Tyler Guyton did play immediately. And he was tapping out. Yeah, he wasn't good. He was tapping out, dude. Luke Schoonmaker played. He just is not good. They made Mozzie play. He just...
And if Tyler Warren is there at 12 and we get wiped out, if Genty's not there, I think some of the A players that you mentioned, they're all one of them is going to be there. I would absolutely look at Tyler Warren. I would.
Let's do our draft before let's do our mock draft before we
wrap up.
Yeah.
And you need to start educating people now that the Michigan defensive tackles, they're not Mozzie, right? They just like the player from Michigan that Detroit took that broke his leg. So you can't just
Aiden Hutchinson.
You can't just paint Michigan players with the same brush. So, but
no,
the two tackles that they got, they're good.
I was trying to explain that to somebody yesterday. It's not about the fact that it's not about the school and the position. It's about the player.
Yeah.
these guys are studs. There's no question about it.
And Hutchinson getting hurt for Detroit, that that made a big difference in their season.
Yeah,
He was
and
that kind of player.
They had a lot of players that got hurt that made a big difference in their season. So they want us to go back to 28, pick up 60, 101.
That's too far.
They want us to pick up trade with Washington and pick up go to 29, pick up 61 to 79.
That's too far. So the other night we pretended that we were Schotty. So tonight you're gonna be Will McClay.
Okay. All right. Well, right now on my board we got Will Johnson, we got Kelvin Banks.
So this is no trade.
No trade. I'm taking Luther Burden. That's who I'm taking. And make sure that Genty ain't there.
Genty's gone.
Yeah, Genty's gone. So
a lot of drafts that we're seeing lately, especially after the way Saquon is playing, they're saying that Genty is not going to make it to 12.
And would you look at that? They got New York taking Genty.
I saw a draft today where Shador is falling to the Raiders.
Man, it's either way it goes, I think we're gonna be screwed by New York. I don't think that New York. I think that New York is gonna pick a good player, no matter who it is. It's gonna be like, oh man, they're gonna pick either Shador. They're gonna pick
Genty.
I mean, I don't see why not. Well, they got a good running back, but I mean, yeah, I mean, hey,
they getting criticized for not keeping Saquon, so they might. So who's available? We got Luther Burden.
Yeah, I'm taking Luther.
Okay,
so I took Luther. All right,
so we got our running back. I got to remember that because I always forget who we drafted.
They want us to go to pick 40. They want us to go to pick 59 and pick 91 from 44.
And so you're going down 14 spots?
Yeah, you picking up 91. 91.
So this is something that Will McClay would do. So let's go ahead and do that because they're trying to pick up an extra pick.
Okay. So let's reject that one. Okay, so now with this pick, now we got Luther, right? So
I'm looking at I'm trying to look at a receiver, but we'll just see who's there.
So you got Travion Henderson is there with the running backs. Quentin Junkins is there with the running backs. And
who's the number one player on the board over there? Because I can't see that far. So who we got up there at the top?
Derek Harmon. These are defensive tackles. Derek Harmon, Deion Walker, Barrett Carter, the linebacker from Clemson, Kyle Kennard, edge from South Carolina. He's good. But I mean,
so who's the top runner?
Quinshon Junkins. Or
you got Henderson rated below him.
Yeah.
So Junkins is your DeMarco Murray type. Henderson, he's not what's your running back from Detroit? Not as good as him.
Jahmyr Gibbs.
He's fast, probably not as fast as Gibbs. I kind of lean toward Henderson, but
okay, well let's pick Henderson.
Okay, yeah, let's take Henderson.
And then we got 91, and I'm just gonna reject him from now. We got 76. So 76. I mean, see, Jaden Higgins, Iowa State running back. Isaiah Thomas. That's who they would take because that's what's his name. That's Wanye brother.
He's a what?
Cornerback.
So what's the highest rated player over here on the board at the top?
Barrett Carter.
What is he?
A linebacker from Clemson. I'm trying to find my boy. And I mean he gone already.
Who?
Savion.
They're not taking two receivers. They might take the linebacker.
Yeah, Barrett Carter. I think they would.
Okay, so let's go ahead.
Let me see.
Wanye Thomas' brother is a corner.
Yeah, from Florida State.
So they would take the linebacker or they would take the corner.
Yeah, so let's just take the linebacker because he's the better player.
Mm-hmm.
And then you got 91, which they probably can still get that cornerback. Let me see. And you got Scatterboo. Alfred Collins, the defensive tackle. That's who I would take. They got Gunnar Helm out there. Not taking him. Uh, Elijah Arroyo is a tight end. Hmm. Mm,
I would take Scatterboo, but
yeah, me too.
But I don't know if they will.
I mean, we can take Scatterboo just for the heck of it.
I think that would be. So you got Scatterboo and Henderson and Rico. That's what you're gonna need. Because Henderson, he's got some injury history. So now our next pick is in. We got what? We kind of getting
That
down.
was it.
Oh, that was it. So you came out of this with Luther Burden, Henderson,
Barrett Carter, and Scatterboo.
Yeah, I think that Scatterboo pick, they probably would go defensive tackle right there. Probably corner. I just think we're going to need two backs myself going forward. And the other thing we got to talk about too, and we talked about this the other night, is I don't know if Rico going to come back to Dallas. I think Rico is trying to get generational money, so he's a free agent. So Steven, if he's the old Steven, he's not going to even talk to Rico. This is Barrett Carter, the linebacker.
Mm-hmm.
I don't remember them when they played Texas. I don't remember him.
Let's see if he just jump off the screen or what. I don't know what was that him? Huh.
He's number 0.
Yeah. So that's him right here. I mean, he came up. He looked like an average. You know, he came up and hit right there. Okay. He got good ball awareness. I mean, I mean, from what I'm seeing right now, I mean, you know, he's a body that, you know, we would obviously like to have. Yeah, I mean, he don't jump off the screen like that, but you know.
And even though he's not jumping off the screen, here's the thing, and I'm just going to keep talking about this over and over. The guys that we're drafting, they have to play. They don't have 3 years to develop. So this kid right here, if we draft him, he's going to have to play. He's playing. Everybody that we drafted, Luther Burden, Henderson, Scatterboo, if we take him, the linebacker, you're going to see them week 2, week 3, week 4. They're going to be out on the field. That was a good play right there.
Yeah, it was.
So I'm gonna keep saying this, folks. If Jimmy Johnson drafted these 4 players, he would tell whatever veteran is in front of them, this rookie right here, he's coming to take your spot. He's going to play. And I hope that's what Schottenheimer kind of puts back into the atmosphere too. Because, you know, his dad, you know, Marty Schottenheimer, I told you the other night, his teams, they were physical, they were talented. He had just terrific linebackers, terrific rushers. I mean, his teams, when you played his teams, you got hit in the mouth.
That was an amazing play right there.
Yeah, so based on what I done seen, just looking at the film right here, is he like all world? No. Could he play in our defense? He absolutely could. So when you draft these players, they play. You can't draft anybody in these drafts and say they got 3 or 4 years to develop. Mm-hmm. Yeah, so based on what I done seen so far, he could play.
Yeah.
And if we draft him, he's going to play. Now, also, Will McClay has been saying that if you draft him, you play him. That's one of the things they've been saying. But the problem is you drafting Schoon and Mozzie and Deshaun Wright, and you drafting Josh Ball.
Kelvin Joseph,
Matt Walesko,
Fehoko.
So yeah, you can't say if we draft them we play them, and then you drafting guys when then you come back and say, well, they really got to wait 2 or 3 years before they can play. No, bro, we're not doing that here. The Eagles ain't doing that. Everybody the Eagles are drafting, they're balling.
They coming in day one playing.
And then they even got the linebacker from
Nolan.
Well, no, I'm talking about the other guy from Georgia. Last year
N'Kobe Dean.
N'Kobe Dean is playing. He was hurt the first year. Did he play yesterday?
I don't know. I didn't watch the game. I didn't care.
He started this year and he looked good. So again,
I mean, he was one of the best. He was one of the best linebackers in college. He just had torn his pec, and that just dropped him. But
so
he's over that now.
Yeah. So the Eagles, the Chiefs, the 49ers, the Ravens, they're not drafting guys to develop. They're drafting guys saying, "Yeah, you coming in, you getting ready to take somebody's job."
They were talking about Sky Moore today. They were talking about Sky Moore on the fan. They drafted Sky Moore. He ain't work out. We don't even know if he on the team no more.
But they played him though.
Right. That's my point. He don't get 2 or 3 years to develop.
No, and Sky Moore scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl last year.
Yeah, he scored 2 touchdowns
in the Super Bowl. I remember one.
I know that they ran that same play, right?
But they ran it with a different. He scored 1, I believe.
Oh, okay. They ran the same exact play. It was somebody else.
Yeah, that was the receiver that they cut him during the season, and they brought him back like a week before the Super Bowl, and he ended up scoring.
McCall Hardman.
So our next show we need to break down Eberflus. I'm not really feeling good about this Eberflus thing, so we got to try to find some.
He ain't even hired yet.
Well, they keep saying that. The reason they did that is because they didn't do the Rooney Rule, so they're trying to keep it on the down low. But he came in under Rob Ryan he was a 3-4 linebacker coach. His linebackers were really good. I need to find out if he coached Khalil Mack, because if he coached Khalil Mack, then that gives us some hope for Micah. But I heard some people today talking about the Marinelli. You cannot tell me, I cannot believe that Steven, Jerry Jones, and even Brian Schottenheimer would touch anybody that's trying to run a Rob Marinelli scheme. That just can't be happening. After you done had Dan Quinn and Mike Zimmer, there's no way you could be going back to that. That would just be like somebody should be fired tomorrow if that's what you're trying to do.
Yeah, I think Eberflus, my from what I'm hearing from the guys that I follow, like Jeff seems to think that's a great hire if they do go that route, and so it's a lot of players that be thinking like, yeah, a lot of content creators and a lot of they're saying that that's a good look because he's a no nonsense, he's a good defensive coordinator.
Well, I just want to know more about what he's going to be doing with Micah, Sam Williams.
I think it's weird. I think it's weird how they interviewing all of the candidates from the same coaching staff. They interviewing 3 guys from that coaching staff. They interviewing. Yeah, they interviewing Eberflus and then 2 other guys.
Well, if he's going to be the coordinator, he's going to bring some guys with him from Chicago, so that's pretty normal.
But they interviewing them as for defensive coordinator.
Yeah, that's kind of what they do. I just want to know what he's going to do with his defensive tackles. Are they going to just control the gaps and stop the run? We don't want our defensive tackles flying upfield the way Marinelli coached them, because what people started doing on Marinelli's defense,
over pursuing.
If you want to just let your defensive tackles fly upfield, just let them go by, and we're going to run traps behind them. We don't need to go back to that. That's not what and then Quinn kind of got caught doing that a little bit. Zim totally got away from that, and it actually worked the second half of the season. Mm-hmm. And you still can see that Quinn's having some problems stopping the run. So we cannot have another defensive scheme, because we got to look at it this way. We got to put together a defense that's going to try to stop Saquon Barkley. That's going to try to slow down. If we're playing Genty, if the Giants get him, we need to be thinking about what we're going to be doing to control the running game. So I kind of want to see what. And the other thing is, Rob Marinelli didn't put a lot of value on the safeties. We can't go back to that. We can't go back.
I have them taking Genty over Travis Hunter.
So Tankathon, you kind of got to keep an eye on them too. They'll do some goofy stuff on there. They just trying to do the algorithm thing.
Well, right now it just changed, I guess, because now they got Cameron Ward going to New York, and they got Travis Hunter.
And that's the way it's been looking. Where is Genty going now?
To us.
Yeah, that's. I don't know what that other thing was. It's like they try to. It might just be an algorithm type thing. Genty's not going to the Giants. He's gonna. I think Genty's going to get down to like 7 or 8, and but if he gets to 12, we should take him.
Yeah,
and just have a strategy to play him to where he's not, being run into the ground, so he can have 4 good years, and then he'll still be, a youthful back. And just use Genty. You draft Travion Henderson, and then if we have Rico, the way Shotty's going to be running the ball, you'll have your backs. I want to see Shotty, what Shotty's going to do with this passing game too. We need 2 more receivers. We need a second and third receiver. We need another tight end. I'm looking for a tight end that's going to be this, equivalent of Ferguson or right behind him. And it's not Schoon, and it's not the other guy that we had, Brevin Spann. Well, we gotta upgrade that.
Yeah, so we're gonna wrap it up. We've been on for quite a bit, so you all make sure that you like, comment, and subscribe, and follow us on all our platforms. And today was a good show. We'll probably come back tomorrow and do something else or whatever news breaks tomorrow. So we got a lot to discuss, and we got a lot of we still got hope. I'm trying to figure out, it's draft time now. So now we can start digging into the draft and figuring out who is who. That way that we know when we pick who we got, because we're gonna come back and do who they should pick, and then who we think they would pick. So we're gonna come back and do that. So you all make sure you like, comment, and subscribe, and we'll see you all on the next one. Peace.